Paul Atkins, the head of the SEC, just said something mind-blowing on national TV about the crypto market and how institutions are coming in to tokenize everything and how long it's actually going to take in his eyes. This clip, boom, brains everywhere, blew my mind. I have to show it to you. We also have a ton of other XRP news and information about what's going on in the market. I'm going to keep you up to date in this one video. Let's play this clip.
Do you expect this is where financial services is going? Are the major banks and the brokers out there today moving increasingly toward tokenization?
Absolutely, and it's the way the world will be, here in the, maybe not even in 10 years, maybe even a lot less time, maybe a couple of years from now. So
one more time, okay, if you're not getting as excited as I am, you probably are not fully understanding what he's saying here, but let me play it one more time and then I will tell you why I'm so excited.
Do you expect this is where financial services is going? Are the major banks and the brokers out there today moving increasingly toward tokenization?
Oh, absolutely. And it's the way the world will be, here in the, maybe not even in 10 years, maybe even a lot less time, maybe a couple of years from now. So
it's the way the world's moving to. It'll be like that sooner than people realize. Not even 10 years, maybe a few, like 2. He's giving us the game plan. He's telling us how long this is going to take. He said in the next 2 years, we're probably going to have mass adoption of the crypto market where all of this value is tokenized and settled through blockchain. There it is. Head of the SEC, the person who's in charge of making sure all of this stuff doesn't go kablooey for the federal government, Securities and Exchange Commission, is giving us the information that we need to know that crypto is being fully adopted by financial institutions here in the US and globally. Right now, it is a race between which country can set up their regulatory perimeter first and take full advantage of this market. The reason, because those countries will gain supremacy over the other countries that have not been able to update their financial systems in time to take advantage of this massive wave of crypto blockchain innovation. And this is why XRP is going to be one of the most widely used assets by financial institutions globally, because Ripple has done the work the last 13 years to get to a place where they are trusted, they are known, and people want to use XRP USD for their institutional flows. Let's just keep getting it, Paul. I'm so excited.
I think that all of this modernization of the markets, I think, is good. And the trouble that we've seen here over the past few years is that, the SEC, unlike historically, it never was necessarily at the vanguard of pushing new innovations. It was always, a little bit behind the market, of course. But here recently, it's been almost standing athwart the marketplace, and as all these new innovations were coming about. So that's no more. We're actually embracing it, and I believe that we need to be embracing it to keep the United States at the forefront.
They need to be embracing the crypto market to keep the United States on the forefront of this innovation. It is incredible to hear the heads of the biggest regulators in the United States saying these things about the crypto market, because it tells us that we've been right this whole time about where this market is heading and how big it's actually going to be. I can't keep the energy down, man. It feels so good to hear from some of the top people in the government that we've been right this whole time. I don't know what, last 5 years, dedicated my whole life to learning all of this stuff. I've had, this is where I thought it was going. This is what I believe was happening. And to see those things being played out, maybe not in the timeline that I would have liked, but oh man, it's just a great feeling. It's a great feeling. And I'm sure when you hear that and you've been in the market for a while, or you're just now starting to learn, you are starting to get excited too, right? Who cares about the price today? Think about where the price is going to be in 1 or 2 years from now. I know you want to have that meme coin mentality where you buy something and you just want to be rich the next day, but that's not how things actually work here in the real world. Things take time to progress and be adopted. And if you're willing to wait that time, you're going to miss one of the biggest innovations and transformations in our financial system in history. Full stop. All right, so Paul Barron said, correction, we will hit 1 billion worth of XRP and ETFs by December 15th. Looks like we have 844.99 million so far invested in spot ETFs. Just to get a little bit more information, as of late November 2025, there was about 339 to 340 million XRP in assets under management. Analysis from November 30th put US spot XRP ETF holdings at about 318 million XRP worth, and roughly about $650 to $775 million. So you can see just in the last few days, we have already gained another $100 million. That is pretty juicy. And then public data, public OTC data is much fuzzier because individual ETF issuers and market makers do not disclose what share of their XRP acquisition is through exchanges versus OTC counterparties. One widely cited institutional commentary claimed that OTC and dark pool XRP supply had already seen 800 million XRP absorbed in the first week after the initial spot. I wonder who that is, right? I wonder who the analyst is. And you know who it is. Anyways, we can't prove 800 million XRP was absorbed because 800 million XRP is $1.6 billion worth of XRP. So all we can do is show you what we know and what we can prove. Not the hard part here. And we had a live stream yesterday. And at the height of that live stream, we had 7,000 people in there. And we were having a lot of discussion about XRP and the market and ETFs. And the problem here is these different OTC desks, over-the-counter desks. This is where a lot of this XRP is being purchased right now. That's why you're not seeing a change in the price on the open market, because they're buying it in private. Now, there's only supposed to be about 1.2 to 2 billion XRP on these OTC desks. The reason it's hard to get a rough number is they don't report how much XRP they have or other cryptos. They keep it secret, and there's so many different OTC desks. Every big crypto exchange has an OTC desk, and then there's OTC desks that have nothing to do with crypto exchanges. And so there could be hundreds of OTC desks at this point. So it's impossible to know which each one has, and you'd have to have a connection at every OTC desk, and you'd be on the phone all day long getting updates. But as soon as we can go through and burn through and buy up all of that OTC XRP, the only other place that they will be able to get XRP is going to be from Ripple Escrow, Ripple itself through on-demand liquidity, or they're going to have to buy it off the exchanges. And that is what we want. We want them to buy it off the exchanges because that's when the price goes from $2 to a whole lot more. All right. Nearing the first billion assets under management in 2 weeks. And right now, did you pick up some XRP under $2? I've been telling you I've been buying under $2. Have you? Hope so. 4 hours to go, and we're at 23 million in XRP ETF volume share. We'll break $40 million again. Let's get close to 50 million. So this is December 2nd. This video will probably come out first thing on December 3rd. I'm creating so much content right now. We're trying to get it all out to you guys. There's just so much going on. I'm trying to cover it. I hope you guys are getting value and you're learning and you're having a good time. That's what matters most to me. And it's such a pleasure to be on this journey with you guys. I just want to say, Canary Capital filed an S1 for American-made crypto ETFs, HBAR, AVAX, Bitcoin, Link, Litecoin, Solana, XLM, and XRP, and more to be included. The S1 language describes the fund intended to hold digital assets directly, not derivatives, consistent with how a spot crypto ETF is structured. So you're going to see a lot of these products that come and they're going to represent maybe the top 5 or the top 10 best tokens. You're probably going to see products that represent the top AI tokens and real world asset. And, there's going to be these different batches that they're going to put out and see what becomes more popular. Obviously, the Vanguard news was incredible. Having 50 million new clients able to buy these ETFs. You got Franklin Templeton, you have Canary, you have Rex Osprey, and then you have XRPI here. A lot of really cool things happening. And then Hunter Horsley says, huge news. Bank of America Private Bank and Wealth Management, one of the largest in the country, $2 trillion, announced that will allow its advisors to allocate 1 to 4% to Bitcoin starting in January. It is started, ladies and gentlemen. The cool thing here is you're probably saying, Sensei, why not XRP? I get it. You got to start somewhere. Right now, it is Bitcoin. This is where these institutions are looking. But this is a great start because now all of these financial advisors will be calling their clients and saying, hey, now it's time to get in. It's time to go. It's time to move, right? And then the younger that person is, maybe they'll allocate 5 or even 10% of their net worth, right? This is really where the institutional money starts coming in, and it starts to come in heavy, and it's getting really exciting, right? I'd imagine BlackRock will probably announce some other products here soon. You would think to stay ahead of the market, they were going to, but here's a little bit more information. This move mainly accelerates institutional adoption of Bitcoin, but it also strengthens this long-term case for regulated digital assets broadly, which can indirectly benefit XRP and other majors over time. In near term, it will likely increase Bitcoin dominance and the narrative gravity within spillover flows into selected altcoins once advisors and clients become more comfortable. So Bitcoin might be the first place. If Bitcoin does well, the clients might say, what else you got, right? What is Ethereum? What is Solana? What is XRP? And that's when we'll get those people to come in. Bank of America, Merrill Lynch Private Bank, and Merrill Edge platforms will let wealth advisors recommend 1 to 4% allocation of crypto, implemented initially through 4 spot Bitcoin ETFs, Bitwise, Fidelity, Grayscale, and BlackRock. Starting January 5th, 2026, this opens the door to roughly 15,000 advisors and over $2 trillion in management wealth to include in Bitcoin ETFs. The guidance is framed as a modest, high volatility thematic innovation sleeve, emphasizing regulated vehicles and risk education rather than speculative trading. That framing is key. It places Bitcoin and by extension other large cap cryptos firmly inside traditional asset allocation conversions instead of just an off-platform side bet. All right, a few other things here. One day, 18 million XRP acquisition. So Chad is kind of showing another one of what he thinks could happen here. If the volume were to stay true and the price were to stay the same, you'd be looking at maybe a 4.3 billion XRP in 12 months. Remember, there's only a few billion XRP left on exchanges. Once you go through the OTC desks, the only other XRP is on exchanges and in Ripple escrow or Ripple itself. And if Ripple is not willing to sell some of that escrow, then, exchanges we go. And then so just looking at some patterns here, I'm not really going to go over this because we do look at a lot of these different things. But if you want to pause the screen and just kind of go through this and read this for yourself, it says roughly 7 to 9 months to go through 2.6 to 3 billion XRP on exchanges. All right, and then ETF Money Flow Watch, all XRP ETFs posted 21 million in volume from after hours into market open. And now we're on the verge of crossing a massive 14 billion in total cumulative trading volume. I want to thank XRP Army for putting this together. Appreciate you, man. This momentum hasn't slowed since launch. Institutional flow is getting louder and the charts are starting to show it. 21 million today, 14 billion total ETF volume incoming. Let's get it. And so people are keeping track of this very closely and I will keep you up to date. Also, we got some new information here about Open Eden. They're partnering and investing here into some platforms. Open Eden, a leading platform for tokenization of real-world assets, yesterday announced the completion of a strategic investment round in participation with investors, including Ripple. And then so tokenized treasuries are something that will be on chain and will be on the XRP ledger. Now, how much of those will be on the XRP ledger? That is still up to discussion, and we'll have to see how all of this stuff works. But tokenized US treasuries are already 8 to 9 billion on chain as in the market today, but they are still tiny compared to the 29 trillion in outstanding US treasury market. Large asset managers and infrastructure players expect on-chain treasuries to scale rapidly over the next 3 to 8 years with broader exchange integration like NASDAQ filings for tokenized securities trading, pointing to mainstream trading later this decade. Market size today and potential as of late 2025 token US treasuries. We talked about that, roughly 8 to 9 billion. This is still a rounding error versus the multi-trillion in traditional treasury markets today. And so when treasuries trade natively on chain, today most tokenized treasuries trade through issuer platforms like DeFi integrations, not yet fully fungible on exchange securities through projects like Open Eden on the XRP ledger and Buildo BlackRock and Franklin Templeton's on-chain funds show institutional scale usage. Regulatory and market structure moves such as NASDAQ's 2025 filing to support tokenized securities and growing regulatory sandbox for tokenized products suggest that more treasuries will be tradable on major venues and interoperable DeFi rails roughly 2026 and onward. All right, and then we are seeing XRP exchange held supply on Coinbase plummeted 45% recently. So people are buying as much as they can, as quickly as they can. And let me just finish with this last clip. This is BlackRock CEO Larry Fink admits he was wrong about Bitcoin and crypto.
Called crypto an index for money laundering. BlackRock
and thieves.
And thieves.
Yes.
Money laundering and thieves.
Right.
He's not wrong.
You now have the biggest Bitcoin ETF. So what happened here?
Customer.
I have very strong views, but that doesn't mean I'm not wrong. By having strong views, you have to test yourself and ask yourself. And, in my role, I see, thousands of clients a year. I have, governmental leaders, and we have these conversations, and my thought process always evolves. And this is a very glaring public example of a big shift in my opinion.
And is he going to shift his opinion when it comes to XRP? I can't wait to see a iXRP BlackRock spot XRP ETF hitting the market. When? I don't know. Hopefully soon. I hope you got some value, guys. If you did, please hit like, leave a comment down below, share this with somebody in your family or a friend that you think will get value. I really appreciate your support. I'm Crypto Sensei. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.